Well, I guess I will. Hello everyone, it's Poohead189, and today I'm bringing you a somewhat lengthy video. I guess it's not too long. Before we get into the meat of it, we're going to talk about Wizards of the Coast and some mild controversy I was involved in a few days ago. To explain, the reason why I am making this video is, well, because people dared me to, but also to address Wizards of the Coast announcing in an article that they're going to diversify D&D by making Drow and Orcs as morally complex as humans, and how interracial diversity and fairness is a key component to the gaming experience. They announced this on Twitter 20 seconds before, while I was at work, I saw it and posted this tweet. I was expecting at worst this. Instead, this actually occurred. I should not have been surprised that within the next 24 hours I got around 700 notifications. I gotta be honest, I thought this shit was great. I laughed so hard at a lot of this stuff. I also had a good laugh with some of my friends when they saw I was trending on their feeds because the amount of vitriol some people had for me. Now, I mean, it's not nearly as funny now, but it was, God, I smiled so much that day. On Wednesday, I believe it was. Now, what had happened was, when I was at work, I hadn't even read the article. I did later, but I knew as soon as I read them talking about diversity, they would do it, and I fucking called it. That's kind of sad. But yeah, I wasn't initially arguing. I made a post about being frustrated that D&D was appealing to irrationality with their mechanics, and I was hoping to God they didn't retcon the lore. The people did not think that was what I meant. The things they assumed of me was incredible. Judging by my response about orcs, they thought I was racist, homophobic, transphobic, that I was likely hated in my D&D group. They thought I wasn't going to play D&D anymore. They wanted me to cry and film it. And last and most importantly, they thought I meant that orcs or drow could never be good guys. Anyone who is watching this video likely knows that 1, I'm a huge Forgotten Realms fan, and I know for a fact that in 4th edition, there was an entire kingdom of neutral-aligned and good-aligned orcs called the Kingdom of Many Arrows, which traded with elves, dwarves, and men in the Silver Marches, which is north of Faerun. In the northern part of Faerun. People would also know that 2, I'm a massive fan of the Drizzt series about Drizzt Do'Urden, a good-aligned dark elf. So much, in fact, that I was interviewed by the Dungeon Cast to give Drizzt lore before they had on the creator and author of the series, R.A. Salvatore. I'm also a big enough fan to know there's a short story in a Drizzt anthology where Drizzt tries to save a good-aligned goblin. Any Forgotten Realms fan would know that orcs, goblins, and drow are, while rare, have the capacity to be good. They have the capacity. These people thought I meant that they could never be good. Obviously, that is not the case. They unironically wished harm on me in some fashion, mental or physical, because of my opinion on a fictional people. They had such unbridled hatred for me. They were being such mean-spirited people while trying to appear as if they were actually good people. It was so beautiful to watch. Now, admittedly, I thought it was so funny, I got even less diplomatic and posted this. But not a lot of people saw this tweet. I never thought I'd tell people to fucking homebrew these nuts, but, you know, hey, it's what happens. But after that, I did what I usually do if I have many people disagree with me. And I know some of you guys would be like, you wouldn't give a fuck, or you don't have time for it, or whatever the fuck, but I went and spoke to each person I could individually. And, you know, I actually got some good feedback from a lot of them. You know, of course, some of them were extremely angry with me and extremely mean-spirited, but at the same time, like, some of them, you know, like, if you talk to enough people, then you will get people responding back to you, and then once you speak rationally to them, they will then be like, oh shit, this guy's actually rational, you know, he's not someone who hates people for an arbitrary reason, you know. But some of them, obviously, you know, they did not give me the time of day. There was this one person that said that I make orcs in my game gay to piss off people like you. And I said, I mean, gay people are pretty cool. What does that have to do with D&D? And she immediately blocked me. Or at least I assumed it was a she. I guess I shouldn't assume gender. But, you know, that's just, yeah, whatever. And I will say I did get some good reception, like about 140 likes and close to 10 retweets, and people were arguing on my behalf. I felt good a lot of people agreed too, even if the majority either didn't agree or just thought I was being an ass and didn't want to listen. Now I'm linking the tweet below. Here's a disclaimer. If you want to go on the tweet and if you want to like or retweet what I said, you certainly can. I like, don't harass anyone who is mean to me. Now, obviously, I can't make you do or not do something. I honestly, like, you do what you want to do in the thread. You can like or retweet whose ever tweets you want to do that, but like, try not to. I would ask you to not harass anybody, please. If you agree with me, and or just out of common courtesy, just don't harass anybody. Like, I've already discussed things with most of them, and the other ones that blocked me or that still hate me. I mean, I remember there was this one guy that he was the meanest guy. He made like 8, or I guess maybe it could have been 6 tweets. I don't know, making wild assumptions about me, and I just followed him just because I knew he'd think it'd be weird. So like, don't do anything on my behalf. You're good. Now that that's over with, let's talk about the Wizards article itself. I am going to, well, first off, I'm going to make another small disclaimer. Now, I'm not conservative or right-wing. I don't complain about SJWs, and I don't enjoy thinking the worst of anyone. To people like that, diversity is close to being a slur. For me, I'm a lore enthusiast, and as long as it works for the universe, I don't give an absolute fuck. I'm not one of those fucking YouTubers who are just like, oh, I don't want diversity in my game. You're like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. As long as it works with the lore. So, as long as we have that clear, let's dive into the article, and I will actually read all of it to you guys. Dungeons & Dragons teaches that diversity is strength, for only a diverse group of adventurers can overcome the many challenges a D&D story presents. In that spirit, making D&D as welcoming and inclusive as possible has moved to the forefront of our priorities over the last 6 years. We'd like to share with you what we've been doing and what we plan to do in the future to address legacy D&D content that does not reflect who we are today. We recognize that doing this isn't about getting to a place where we can rest on our laurels, but continuing to head in the right direction. We feel that being transparent about it is the best way to let our community help us to continue to calibrate our efforts. Now, before I continue, I would like to say that when people say that they want things to be, most everything is inclusive. Pretty much, in fact, I think every tabletop game ever is inclusive. Some players are not, but I think every tabletop game is. So usually this stuff is kind of arbitrary, and what they're really doing is half the time like just making the lore differently for some reason, but you know, just putting that out there. One of the explicit design goals of the 5th edition D&D is to depict humanity in all its beautiful diversity by depicting characters who represent an array of ethnicities, gender identities, sexual orientations, and beliefs. Well, they're not changing humans in this, so I don't know what they mean by that. We want everyone to feel at home around the game table and to see positive reflections of themselves within our products. Human in D&D means everyone. Oh, so they're making that like that. Not just fantasy versions of Northern Europeans, and the D&D community is now more diverse than it's ever been. Well, I mean, there's plenty of different diversities in Faerun and Forgotten Realms, and in Eberron, and in every other, in Greyhawk, you know, like, I don't know what they mean by that. Greyhawk is like a lot of different ethnicities that aren't Northern Europeans. But, you know, like, what they're saying here essentially is, we want to showcase more than the medieval European mindset, which, you know, is fair. You know, like, I agree, it's fair. It's just at the same time, they already do that. Throughout the 50-year history of D&D, some of the peoples in the game, orcs and drow being 2 of the prime examples, have been characterized as monstrous and evil, using descriptions that are painfully reminiscent of how real-world ethnic groups have been and continue to be denigrated. 1, they were characterized as monstrous and evil because they were monsters serving evil. And they weren't characterized as that because of any racial things. But there is an argument to say that orcs and drow and others can maybe be connected to stereotypes that have been used on other ethnicities or certain ethnicities. I wouldn't say that they come from the stereotypes, but they could be used to describe them. That's just not right, going back to the article, and it's not something we believe in. Despite our conscious effort to the contrary, we have allowed some of the old descriptions to reappear in the game. We recognize that to live our values, we have to do an even better job in handling these issues. If we make mistakes, our priority is to make things right. Here's what we're doing to improve. We present orcs and drow in a new light in two of our most recent books, Eberron Rising from the Last War and Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. In those books, orcs and drow are just as morally and culturally complex as other peoples. We will continue that approach in future books, portraying all the peoples of D&D in relatable ways and making it clear that they are as free as humans to decide who they are and what they do. When every D&D book is reprinted, we have an opportunity to correct errors that we or the broader D&D community discovered in that book. Each year, we use those opportunities to fix a variety of things, including errors in judgment. In recent reprintings of Tomb of Annihilation and Curse of Strahd, for example, we changed text that was racially insensitive. I'd be really interested to see what text that was. And I'm not even saying that's not true, I'm really interested in seeing what they said. Those reprints have already been printed and will be available in the months ahead. We will continue this process, reviewing each book as it comes up for a reprint and fixing such errors where they are present. Later this year, we will release a product, not yet announced, that offers a way for a player to customize their character's origin, including the option to change the ability score increases that come from being an elf, a dwarf, or one of the D&D's many other playable folk. I am very much against this. A dwarf is tougher than a human, and that therefore he should get a +2 constitution. That's not fucking racist. Like a Goliath is stronger than a gnome, but, okay. This option emphasizes that each person in the game is an individual with capabilities all their own. Come on, man. Curse of Strahd included a people known as the Vistani and featured the Vistani heroine Esmeralda. Regrettably, their depiction echoes some stereotypes associated with the Romani people in the real world. To rectify that, we've not only made changes to Curse of Strahd, but in 2 upcoming books, we will also show, working with a Romani consultant, the Vistani in a way that doesn't rely on reductive tropes. Now, I myself have looked up the Vistani, and I don't know. It is obviously based off of Romani and Gypsy sort of stereotypes, I suppose, or history, but I don't know of anything on there that's reductive. Here it is. Let's see. Ability score increases. 2 ability scores of your choice increased by 1. That's usually for the human for 5th edition D&D. Age, blah, blah, blah. Some could live in past century. That's pretty good. At one point, all of his names either serve Strahd or Madame Eva. I don't know if that's something reductive, that the entire ethnic group served one or the other thing. Let's see. I don't think size would be it. Speed, no. Vistani skill. Okay, maybe sleight of hand and stealth would be considered kind of racy when it comes to the Vistani. And deception. And maybe performance too. So maybe these... I could totally see that being somewhat stereotypical, definitely. The evil eye, well, that is stereotypical, but I don't know if that's reductive, because it seems kind of cool. Everyone knows I have heavy Native American blood on my dad's side of the family. People would be like, hey, do you listen to the wind? Which I always thought was kind of funny. But, Evil Eye duplicates the effect of the Animal Friendship spell. When you reach the 3rd level, you may also choose to duplicate the effect of a Charmed Person spell. Okay, so it's essentially... I don't know why it's called the Evil Eye when you charm somebody. But maybe I'm just forgetting my Romani stereotypes or culture or whatever, because I studied it a while... Not studied like in a class, but, I read up on a bunch of stuff a while ago, and I guess I've forgotten some of it. The Vistani Curse. You can use an action to utter a curse to a creature within 30 feet of you that you can see. The curse must be a repayment for an injustice or slight and should not be invoked without dire cause. Now, you might think this is reductive. This is actually true for Vistani culture, something that I do remember. And yes, I know this is Wikipedia, but it actually does have some good sources. There's this thing called the Romanipan, which is a complicated concept of Romani philosophy encompassing totality of the Romani spirit culture, law being a Rom, a set of Romani strains. So an ethnic Rom is considered to be a Gajo, non-Romani, in Romani society if he has no Romanipan, which is essentially their form of law and honor. So when it comes to the Vistani curse, and it says you can use an action to utter a curse to a creature within 30 feet of you that you can see. That curse must be repayment for an injustice or slight and should not be invoked without dire cause. That sort of holds true to the Romanipan. Although, of course, the fact that they can throw curses at people, that might be kind of reductive. But, at the same time, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a person of color on one side of my family, and I always enjoyed, I don't know about being stereotyped, but I always thought that it was kind of neat that I was different. That I never thought that if someone's saying, you might throw a curse on me because you're Romani, is a joke, and I would, if they said that to me, like a Native American curse, I wouldn't be like, I'd be like, haha, yeah, you're right. So I don't know, I always felt cool. I've always felt it was cool that people thought things of me that was different. I never thought it was racist, even if it might technically be. So I don't know. It really depends on the person. But let's get back to the article itself. Okay, after the Vistani, we've received valuable insights from sensitivity readers on 2 of our recent books. We are incorporating sensitivity readers into our creative process, and we will continue to reach out to experts in various fields to help us identify our blind spots. We are proactively seeking new, diverse talent to join our staff and our pool of freelance writers and artists. We've brought in contributors who reflect the beautiful diversity of the D&D community to work on books coming out in 2021. We're going to invest even more in this approach and add a broad range of new voices to join the course of D&D storytelling. And we will continue to listen to you all. We created 5th edition in conversation with the D&D community. It's a conversation that continues to this day. That's at the heart of our work, listening to the community, learning what brings you joy, and doing everything we can to provide it in every one of our books. This part of our work will never end. We know that every day someone finds the courage to voice their truth, and we're here to listen. We are eternally grateful for the ongoing dialogue with the D&D community, and we look forward to continuing to improve D&D for generations to come. Okay, so, after reading all that, let's go to the parts about the orcs and drow. Now, ignoring for the moment the statement about ethnicities and drow and orcs, with them being connected to racial ethnicities, ignoring that, we'll discuss what the article means for game mechanics. The main argument is that diversity means more opportunity. And they're right. The main strength of D&D is its diversity. You could be an elf, dwarf, halfling, dragonborn, Goliath, etc. You can be from all different sorts of backgrounds. You can be, various different things, various different classes. What they are incorrect about is how them changing drow and orcs, I don't know about the Vistani, but drow and orcs, adds to the diversity. They seek to make, as stated, drow and orcs as morally complex as everyone else. Unfortunately, drow and orcs are already as morally complex as everyone else. Yes, there is a large majority of both races that are evil or barbarous. However, as I stated earlier, orcs and drow have already been able to be good if they choose to be. What Wizards of the Coast means with diversity is very likely they are going to retcon these 2 races or vastly change the universe to suit new religions and racial moral choices, which means that Wizards is going to scramble to create content that adds this, in my opinion, meaningless update, which will lower quality in their new sourcebooks. Furthermore, trying to change, say, orcs to be ugly green humans is reductionist and erases the culture built out for them. The irony of the situation is, it reduces great opportunity to play against the grain and play as a race that has their own prejudices and prejudices against them. Playing the pariah can give many roleplay opportunities. Yes, you can homebrew it back to the way it was, but why is the less rich and standardized culture the one we have to force as the basis rather than the world full of rich diversity? Essentially, in a world where every species or race has a similar moral outlook on life, it takes away diversity, not adds to it. It's why prejudicial attitudes within the elven and dwarven communities towards others, particularly one another, has remained in the game and universe. It's a fantastical way to express, for lack of a better way of saying it, conservative versus liberal values. Though at the end of the day, the two people are racist towards one another, and even though I said it can add interesting role-playing opportunities, it's still far more toxic and literally racist than, say, Orcish tribal behavior and their worship of Grumsh. Also, I realize, as some people pointed out, that Eberron has orcs as one of the goodly races, and the elves as something of a more villainous kind. Some people use that to showcase orcs could be good to me in the Twitter thread, even though again I didn't say no orc could be good. Well, I didn't think much of it since D&D made Forgotten Realms its main universe. However, concerning Eberron, I have no qualms with that, except it also wouldn't disprove what they believed my point was earlier. It's literally, presumably, making two races be the stereotypes you hate. They just happen to switch them, with orcs being good and elves being bad. It's literally as toxic as orcs being bad, elves being good. Anyway, I hope this video was informative for you, and I appreciate you listening. Please, if you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for my next one. In that video, we will explore the creation of orcs in fiction, and in some ways we'll look at dark elves too. And we will see if there are or were truly racist prejudices in their inception, and if it matters in today's gaming world. Thanks, everyone.